A brilliant physician and a brutal executioner, such was Klaus Karl Schilling. He raved about medical research from a young age, graduated from the Munich Institute, and in 1895, when he was only 24, became a doctor of medical sciences. Schilling's favorite topic of research was parasitology. As a professor at the University of Berlin and a member of the Malaria Commission of the League of Nations, he spent several years conducting practical research in the German colonial possessions of Africa. He developed vaccines for diseases spreading in the tropics, including malaria. His talent and zeal for his work were highly recognized in medical circles. In 1905, Klaus became the first director of the Department of Tropical Medicine at the Robert Koch Institute and remained its permanent head for 30 years. Schilling spoke with absolute confidence about his developments and convinced everyone that vaccination could not harm or cause any side effects in the human body. The professor had no opponents. His authority was too great. In 1936, a new stage in the professional life of Schilling begins. He moves to fascist Italy, where he gets the opportunity to conduct experiments on immunization. Research he conducts on living people with different degrees of deviations in brain activity. The doctor gained access to psychiatric clinics with the approval of the authorities, who were concerned about outbreaks of malaria in the troops. Klaus Schilling's experiments were not only supported but also partially funded by the Nazi German government. Scientific research. Schilling, seriously interested in the head of the National Socialist Union of Doctors, SS Obergruppenverband. He also, in 1942, when the doctor returned to Germany, presented him to the head of the SS Himmler. The Reichsfuhrer reacted lightning fast to Klaus's desire to continue testing and experimenting in the field of parasitology, and provided the opportunity to establish a research laboratory on the grounds of the Dachau concentration camp. A myriad of experiments on prisoners were conducted in the camp. The malaria laboratory opened by the professor became another link in the monstrous experiments on living human beings. Schilling's experiments were simple in execution. The prisoner was placed in a cage and tied so that he could not move. Then malarial mosquitoes would be introduced and infect the subject. Schilling started treatment with the vaccines developed, but no particular effect was observed. According to the materials of the investigation, more than 1,000 prisoners were subjected to the experiments, of which 300 to 400 were moderated from infection. The rest remained disabled. The data on the number of victims is most likely underestimated, as the Germans managed to destroy most of the documents during the Red Army offensive. In addition to vaccination, the professor tested the reaction of organisms to narcotic drugs. He injected prisoners with various doses, from small to lethal. He also looked for cures for tuberculosis and sepsis. All the results were carefully recorded in a journal. After all, the experiments were conducted for the good of Germany and the soldiers of the Reich, fighting at the fronts. Every day, without remorse, Schilling committed crimes against people. He regarded prisoners as mere material for experiments. The world-renowned professor easily crossed the chasm separating science and madness. Schilling was tried at the Nuremberg trials. He did not admit his guilt and convinced the judges that he had made a great way in science. The military tribunal remained adamant. In late 1945, the doctor was sentenced to capital punishment for criminal medical experiments that led to the deaths of hundreds of people. On May 28, 1946, the sentence was carried out.